God was like, fuck you, Tani, I'm gonna give you double trouble.
Tani partner! You may begin.
Welcome to Movie Pain or Pleasure Podcast, the show that dances its way into your heart. I'm your co-host, Melanie, and we are talking about our very first Bollywood movie. And to commemorate that, I'm having some $5 canned rosé that I bought at Aldi because I just got rejected for a job that I really wanted. I am drinking my problems away.
I'm not sure what that has to do with Bollywood movies, but I mean...
It has everything to do with Bollywood movies. Okay, and I'm joined by my co-host...
AJ Wall, what's up?
And AJ's kind of cosplaying a little bit with the shiny glasses, our main character's alter ego. Raj.
Have no fear, Raj is here.
Raj is here, Tani partner. So, look, we're imitating the main character. We're not doing it to be racist. He says Tani partner a lot. So just...
A lot.
So just deal with it.
A lot.
We love this movie. This is AJ's very first Bollywood movie. And I got into Bollywood movies close to 20 years ago. I lived in Irving, Texas, which is near Dallas, for about a year in the early 2000s. And Irving has a large Indian population. So I got to learn more about the culture and the food. And they also had a Bollywood theater. And if I don't know if that's where I saw my first Bollywood movie or if it was later on Netflix or something, but I remember getting into them and liking them. And I had seen the one we're going to talk about several years ago, and I always liked it, and I wanted to make AJ watch a Bollywood movie. So do you have any experience with Bollywood movies?
No.
No, okay.
Not unless it's like the same way people have experience with like kung fu movies and stuff. Like, it's really, really old stuff that probably doesn't even constitute as the same type of film anymore.
Yeah, if I were a better movie podcaster, I would have done a little bit of research about the history of Bollywood. I didn't because I'm busy and tired and life, but Bollywood has a very rich and long history, so if you want to get more into that, think about that, and I will have some recommendations for movies at the end. For this episode, we are talking about a movie called Rab Ne Bana Di Jodi. So forgive my Hindi, I don't speak Hindi. It means, roughly translated, a match made in heaven or a match made by God. And when they showed the translation, I was like, oh, you gotta bring God into it. So that made me a little uncomfortable.
They do it less so than American movies do.
Yeah, they're not as obnoxious about God the way Christians are. So it was made in 2008, and it stars Bollywood big shot Shah Rukh Khan, SRK, and Anushka Sharma in her debut role. So it takes place in, I'm going to mispronounce this, but I'm going to try, Amritsar. It's a city in, I think it's the Punjab region, because he works for a Punjabi Power light company, and we open in a train station. It's a very beautiful city, wherever they are. And we see this kind of dorky guy who's played by SRK, and he gets off a train, and he reaches out his hand, and there's a lovely Indian bride in her red sari, and she does not take his hand. So
yeah,
we learn that this couple has just gotten married, but things are off to a rocky start.
Straight off the bat, you just feel sorry.
You feel sorry for him, because she's not mean about it, she's just kind of indifferent, and he's trying his best. So there's a flashback pretty quickly to what was the bride's original wedding day. Oh, before I want to say that, I need to make a note about this. Before the movie started, there was this weird thing that popped up at the very beginning from the Central Board of Film Certification, something like that.
Like, look, it's real.
Yeah, it was a certificate with it was all in Hindi, and it was like redacted and stuff. It looked like it was from the 40s. I don't know if that's in front of...
The FBI marked out secret code names and shit.
I don't know if that's in front of every Bollywood... I've seen a handful of Bollywood movies. I don't remember if that's at the beginning of all of them, or it just happened to be in front of this one. And this was from 2008. It's a fairly, it's a recent enough movie that it wouldn't look like that.
14 years ago.
Yeah, not that long. SRK still has a long career, and I don't know what's going on with Anushka Sharma, but hopefully she's had a long career too. So they go a flashback to the wedding, and the woman's name is Tani. And she's very excited. She's dancing and singing. And the main character, SRK's character, is a guy named Surinder. He goes by Suri. And his relationship to the wedding is that he is a student of the father of the bride. and she briefly meets him. And she's like, "Oh, I've heard all about you. He's been bragging about you like he's."
I've had to do extra homework
I've had
because
to
of
do
you,
extra.
basically.
Yeah, basically like you have been revered in my household, and he's always saying, "Well, why don't you study like Suri? Why don't you do this?" And she just kind of talks to him in passing, but he falls deeply in love at first sight, which it's a Bollywood movie, so I'm just gonna accept that that's a thing that happens.
I mean, I could see that for him, not so much for her.
Yeah, he's fascinated, and she's very happy because her father says it's a love match, so it is not an arranged marriage. It is a love match.
Well,
and then
that wasn't in God's arrangement, though. So
yeah, God was like, "Fuck you, Tani. I'm gonna give you double trouble." So what happens?
God murders her fiance.
Yeah, the groom dies in a bus accident
And
on
then,
the way to the wedding.
And then, like knocking over a domino, he gave her father a weak heart, so he dies later from the shock of.
Well, but he doesn't die instantly. He has a heart attack.
He dies with enough time in between his heart dying and him dying that he can ruin his daughter's life by telling her that he wants her to marry Suri.
Yeah, he wants his daughter to be taken care of, and so he asks them both separately. He asks Suri if he would take care of her, but he's like, only if my daughter wants it, though. He wasn't going to force his daughter to do it, but come on, he's on his deathbed. Like, what are you going to do?
Lie to him?
I guess.
I'd lie.
She doesn't lie, though.
I think lying is the answer here.
She marries Suri, and so we notice a couple of things. He has a beautiful home. It's kind of a flat in the town.
Yeah, it almost looks like it's supposed to be an apartment building, but it's just his house.
It's an apartment. It has 2 or 3 stories. There's a courtyard. It's got beautiful scalloping and stained glass windows, but you know, Tani is not happy. So Suri's very gentlemanly about it. He tells her he'll sleep. There's a bed in the attic. He lives in the attic. He lives in the attic.
In his own attic.
Yeah, he lives in the attic, and he lets her have the bedroom, and they really don't interact with each other other than she tries to be a good wife and makes meals for him. And he eats the crunchiest bread.
I love the sound of that bread. It sounds like a cracker.
And I wondered
every morning.
I wondered if that was like a holdover from the colonialists, if the British brought that kind of toast with their tea.
In my brain, I don't see a lot of Indian people taking food from British people. I see it much more in the reverse.
Yeah, fortunately, Britain got some spice and flavor with Indian food. But I do wonder, there is a lot, this movie's in Hindi, there is a lot of English.
There's so much English.
English colloquialisms, and I wonder, okay, is that a holdover from the British?
It's not
or
just colloquialisms.
It's just English words.
They're just words, and they're used everything correctly and whatnot, but it's like if Spanglish became its own language, but it's Hindu. Hindi.
Yeah, Hindi. And so I wonder if that's more of just they got more of an exposure to Western culture over
I still
the
think
years.
it's
I don't know why anybody would want to be like Americans. We're awful. But, you know, they picked up our language.
I guess. I still don't think it's like a culture thing exactly. I mean, part of it probably is, but I think it's more of like they actually understand to some degree the English. Okay. Like it's just integrated.
So
it's
anyway,
weird.
Suri has very crunchy toast, and he has a giant sink. I'm getting some house envy.
Oh yeah, I was like, how deep is that basin?
Yeah.
I've never said basin before in my whole fucking life.
So Suri's doing well with his house. He works for an electric company called Punjab Power. And so we meet his friend Bobby, and every time Bobby shows up, there's this little this little sound effect, and he is played by Vinay Pathak. I think I can't read my handwriting.
He's an Indian Belushi.
He's a Punjabi Belushi.
He looks like a Belushi.
So he's the one that Suri always goes to and kind of talks about, you know.
And I could see one of the Belushis playing this. I just give her a smack, just.
Yeah. So he's sad because he really loves her, and he wishes she would love him back. But she tells him early on, she's like, "My heart is broken. I'm so sad. I just know that I will be a good wife, but I'll never fall in love with you." So he's sad from the beginning, and he talks to his friend Bobby, and Bobby's just like, "Oh, just give her a couple of slaps, and then she'll love you." And he's like, "No."
But first, Bobby freaks the fuck out and starts trying to kick his door down because you didn't tell me I'm your best friend now.
Yeah, he didn't tell him he got married. Yeah, because all his friends at work are like, And they're just like Americans. They pop up over the cubicle like, hey, what'd you do this weekend?
I was glad to see that wasn't just an American cliche.
No, it's a trope
Like,
in Bollywood movies too, apparently.
Yeah, where everyone's like a foot away from each other, and there's the it's weird. There's always the one office gay dude that's in the mix. There's the best friend that looks kind of nerdy. Those are always the cliches, and there's a couple others, but they just
pop up like, so, Story, you got married?
And then they all invite themselves to his house.
Yeah, so
you do.
They invite themselves to her house, and at first it seems like Tani is not going to come out of the bedroom.
Her house, eh?
Oh, his house. Suri's house. Suri's paying for everything. Suri's house. So Tani is very sad. She's staying in the bedroom, and she even said, she said, I'm going to have to kill the old Tani to become the new one, to become like a good wife. And that's kind of a theme throughout the movie.
That's so weird, though.
Thinking that you have to get rid of who you were to become somebody that, somebody else wants you to be. So there's always a lot of mixed messages going on. It's a romantic comedy, so of course there are. So Suri's friends all come over because they want to meet the wife. And at first it seems like, oh, maybe she won't do anything. But then she shows up and the theme music starts playing, and she shows up in a beautiful sari, and she's got a trays full of food and drinks, and she goes and talks with his friends, and she's very friendly, and he thanks her for it later. Thanks her for, I think, preserving his dignity or something was the way he said it.
Yeah, it was strangely worded. Like, I got confused for a second. I was like, dude, he's saying thanks for, like, as sarcastically in my brain.
I don't think he was sarcastic.
No, he was saying thanks
sweet.
for putting up a good face in front of everybody. Mm-hmm. But in my head, the first time I read it, my reaction was like, he's like, well, thanks a lot for preserving my dignity. Like,
no. He meant it in he's a very sweet person. And we get our first music video, which in Bollywood land, they do the whole freaking song.
Yeah, it's not like American musicals where it's integrated. Like, the moment comes when it makes sense.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense because the music, it's a song called Hale Hale. And he starts like, she makes my lunches, she makes my breakfast, and he's just in love, and he's dancing around the town. It's very cute.
Some parts are like actually happening, and other parts aren't at all.
Yeah, like there's a part in the song where he buys a car,
and it's like a legitimate song. It's not like a show tune piece. Like, it's like a real pop song. You can just transplant it.
Yeah, I actually have that song on my iTunes. I like it. I like Bollywood. He
bought a car in that song, and we didn't realize if it was real or not for like half of the movie.
So some of it is kind of dreamlike, and some of it is showing time is passing while the song is happening. So, and in a lot, I'm skipping over a lot. This is like it's 160. It's like 3 hours. So there are lots of little scenes where we show their life together, where they go to movies, and there is one part where they go to see a movie, and I do like that they kind of take the piss out of Bollywood movies. They show this really hot guy and this really pretty woman, and he's fighting them all, and I think he picks her up and swings her around, and she kicks all the guys, and then he said, I'm Raj, you must have heard of me. So that comes back later.
It felt like their version of Face Punch in Twilight.
Yes, where it's a parody of a movie inside the movie. So Tani likes that, and that's kind of, I think, making a statement about the romantic ideals of love that are, I guess, prevalent in a lot of cultures, not just in Western culture. So Tani is getting kind of bored, and she's out at the market one day, and she notices that there's a flyer for dance classes. So she takes it home to Suri and asks if she can do it, and he doesn't really say anything. But later on, when she's cleaning up in the kitchen, she notices that he's left a bunch of money on the flyer so she could go pay for her dance classes.
Yeah, it was a little, like, ominous, almost. Like, he just walks away with the paper, and then comes back and he walks away again.
मैं लेती हूँ.
ये क्या है जी?
ये लोग ना डांस सिखा रहे हैं यहाँ पर. बॉम्बे की बहुत बड़ी कंपनी है. मुझे एक्चुअली डांस का बहुत शौक रहा है हमेशा से. और वैसे भी घर में सारा दिन बोर हो जाती हूँ. लेकिन अगर आपको सही नहीं लगता तो मैं नहीं करूँगी. Thank you.
Mention not जी.
Yeah, so he gets an idea pretty quickly that and he said to himself that he loves the old Tani, the fun, laughing, smiling Tani that he saw at what was going to be her wedding. He doesn't want her to change. So he comes up with a way to try to get closer to her and get to know her for who she really is, not kind of the perfect Indian housewife that she's kind of acting like she thinks she's supposed to be because she's a married girl now. So he and Bobby have their Mrs. Doubtfire salon.
That's exactly the way I was going to explain it.
Bobby owns a salon called Turning Heads or Heads Turning or something like that.
Head turners?
Head turners, yeah.
Bobby यार.
बोल सूर्य यार.
अरे बात कहूँ तो किसी से बोलेगा तो नहीं?
ओए never till my dying day यारा, never.
मेरे को लव हो गया है.
ओए मुबारका, बधाइयाँ, पटाखे और पापे किससे?
मेरी वाइफ तानी जी से.
ओए मुबारका, बधाइयाँ, पटाखे, सूर्य ऐस बात में और गल.
अरे यार वो मेरे को लव नहीं करती. उसको मुझसे लव करा दे यार. कुछ ऐसा कर दे कि मैं उसकी लाइफ का हीरो बन जाऊं. जैसे वो फिल्मों के हीरो को देखकर खुश हो जाती है.
पलविंदर उर्फ बॉबी खोसला शायद इसी दिन के लिए धंधे में आया था सूरी. तू देख मैं कैसे तेरी लव स्टोरी लिखता हूँ.
Yeah.
Bobby's very flamboyant.
But this is Bobby's gay.
Is he though?
He's macho gay. Like
He'll beat the shit out of you.
Like
yeah.
he's very like he has a whole speech about we are macho and
Yeah,
he does all
like,
this shit and you put your chest out and you.
अब बंदे बाइक क्यों चलाते? माचो दिखने के लिए. जीन क्यों पहनते? माचो दिखने के लिए.
पर ये माचो है कौन?
ओए पापे, माचो दा मतलब होता है मर्द. जी फिल्म में दिखाते ना हीरोइन सीधी तरह नहीं मानती, बंदे चुप के ले जाते हैं. ओए माचो. अपने धर्मपाल जी माचो. अपना स्टैलियन रैमोन माचो.
But he rides a motorcycle.
But he is very flamboyant. He seems very gay to me, which is cool. But he seems like one of those gays that doesn't care for women. So
yeah, there was somebody in my past life. I won't say who it is because they are no longer on this mortal coil. But don't think they like women too much. I don't think they thought too highly of them. I won't say who it was. So anyway, they come up with a scheme to give Suri a new identity so he can go and interact with Tani in her dance class and she won't know. So they come up with this character. So he walks into the dance room and you get the full camera body pan. He has these boots on that look like Mexican cartel pointy cowboy boots, like the twins in Breaking Bad. They would wear boots like this. Boots like that, bejeweled jeans, some kind of douchebaggy t-shirt.
it was super tight and like this is the closest I could get because his was like super low and it said bad boy in sparkly like gold thread.
Yeah, and he had like yellow sunglasses on and his hair was spiked up. Oh, and he shaved his mustache off, which we'll get back to the mustache. And so he watches Tani dance and then they have to get partners. And so I think he kind of, I don't know if he bribes somebody or if he kind of like steals a number.
I think they...
Or did they just kind of end up...
They gave him at random and he was like freaking out. He's like, oh no, because I actually have to go partner with her.
Okay, yeah, because at first he just wanted to watch her dance.
Yeah.
Without her knowing.
And then they realize they had the same one, and this is when Raj comes out.
Raj, you must have heard of me.
ओ जी मैं तो नाचता ही नहीं हूँ जी 21 आप सुनिए तो जी मैं तो कभी लाइफ में नहीं नाचा हूँ आप कितने जी नहीं भेजो नहीं जी मैं नहीं जी
Oh no, सूरी पापे, no भागना शागना, only तानी जी's हीरो बनना. याद रहे, अब तू सूरी आई वर्क फॉर पंजाब पावर नहीं है. तू अब तानी जी का हीरो है. तू गाने गाता है, तू डांस करता है, तू बहन की इज्जत बचाता है, तू क्लाइमेक्स में विलन को कुत्ते की मौत मारता है. सूरी द हीरो.
हेलो जी, I'm तानी.
मैं हूँ आपका हीरो.
जी?
जी 21
I'm तानी. You are?
I am राज. ओ जी नाम तो सुना ही होगा.
जी नहीं.
कोई नहीं जी. I mean अब तो सुनते ही रहना है.
So Raj Kapoor is his alter ego, and I like it on Amazon Prime because they actually show when they show the cast when it'll show Shah Rukh Khan and it'll say Raj Kapoor when he's in the Raj scenes.
It's like they called him John Smith.
Yeah,
Like
he's very obnoxious,
but
in kind of a cute, endearing way.
like he's not obnoxious to the point where he's like assaulting.
No, but I don't want to. Okay, this is like pre-Me Too, and I don't want to like discount the Me Too-ness of this because she tells him to stop flirting. And he's like, Tani partner, I'm not gonna flirt with you anymore, but he does, and it's kind of like, oh, Raj, you scoundrel.
I mean, but it is just flirty. It's not like, it's not a. I don't know how to put it. It's not explicit. He's just sort of. Like, you couldn't get offended by it.
He's just like, oh, lucky me, I have such a beautiful partner. And he always says this, he'll like snap his finger around his head and he'll say,
Always say, हम हैं राही प्यार के, फिर मिलेंगे.
and that's a line that comes up over and over. And it even works its way into a song.
They both have, he makes it their, like, goodbye.
Yeah.
Eventually.
He's like, no goodbyes, Tani partner.
Tani partner!
We were saying Tani partner to each other the whole weekend after we watched that movie.
Yeah.
That's what he says the entire time. I love it.
Every time he sees
I
her.
love it. So, no goodbyes. I have no goodbyes in all caps. So, wow, I really did skip over a lot in my notes because there's a lot going. We see their relationship build. She like gets annoyed with him, but then she kind of likes him, and he's kind of sucky at dancing.
It's funny because she talks about him always making her laugh and stuff in other parts, and they didn't actually show it that much. Like,
it takes a while for her to warm up to Raj.
But she was explaining that he made her happy before they showed it. In some ways, like that's the
kind of. Yeah, maybe you should show it a little bit more. Okay, so then it's the guy with the dual identity. So he has a fake mustache made. So he goes back and when he changes back into his Suri outfit,
like,
he'll put his little mustache on. And his little button-down shirt. Yes, there's a mannequin in Bobby's studio, and they'll put the mustache on it and Suri's clothes.
At one point, they were getting
let's
wasted.
Not go. Yeah, we're
not that far.
We're not at that part yet. So this is gonna be the ruse that he tells Tani. Sturi tells Tani that I'm gonna be working late every night, and you've got dance class, so that'll be okay. We'll eat dinner later. And she's like, okay. So he shows up later. And then at some point, Raj tells her, I'm getting like step up deja vu, because he tells her at some point this is the first time he does it. He does it a couple of times, that he can't be her partner anymore because there's a competition, and he knows he's not that great at dancing. I can't remember
exactly
the first
what
time
it was.
It was because he wants her to be able to win, and so he decides he won't do it.
No, it was still okay. So she bitched him out though for not being prepared or something, and that's when he decides to, and that's when he tells her, like, okay, I believe in you, you go be the winner because you deserve it. And then
because he loves her, so he wants her to be happy and do the things she wants to do.
So she can't find him, but then she goes looking for him by looking up where his place of address or whatever is.
Yes.
And it's his buddy's shop where Bobby is.
Yeah, they're working on, he's borrowed Bobby's motorcycle, so and then when he's Raj, he goes and he talks shit to all the guys who are working on the motorbikes, and he's so, I really love Shah Rukh Khan in both characters, but he's very annoying, but he's very funny as Raj. He's very funny.
I'm not paying you to talk to pretty girls, go.
Yeah. So, okay, and then we get another dance, another big musical sequence, and so Tani and Suri are at a movie because they're a boring couple and that's what they're doing, and she doesn't want to think about Raj. She's like, okay, I'm done with him, but then she falls asleep and she sees Raj pop up. And he says, I'm going to teach you about love, Bollywood style. And there's a huge production. I love it. And it goes through all these different, like, 60s style and 70s style.
Yeah, that was interesting.
And a big song about love and everything. And I love it so much. I wish I knew more about Bollywood so I could kind of recognize the eras that they have. But that was probably one of my favorite parts of the movie because it was so silly and so much fun. And so then when the song is over, she stands up and whistles really loud and starts clapping. Everybody's looking at her like, what are you doing?
I think he has to stare down. He's like,
who, sorry?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I was like, oh, okay. The wife had a little too much to drink. So, all right.
Their popcorn did look delicious, though. Those little
cones of popcorn.
I don't know why it makes me actually want some. I know,
like
popcorn.
The butter seeps through and makes it kind of oily. So she tries to find Raj and gets him to come back. And then Suri has a couple of moments with Bobby in his shop where he's talking about it. He's like, I want Tani to be herself, but I really wish she would fall in love with who I really am, with Suri. And then this is where they start to bring God into the story, that this is where we get the title, Radhe Banadi Jodi.
They're like...
Bobby's like, oh, this is a match made by God. It's God's story now.
Well, Suri sort of starts that.
Oh, he starts it? I thought Bobby started it.
No, Bobby reminds him about it. Because
okay, he thinks it's a match made by God.
Suri started to think like he's got Tani's a shot groom. When he
fuck her original groom. He just had to die in a bus accident, so Suri could have his match made by God.
Maybe God knew that they wouldn't be happy together.
Maybe he just took him out. It's like, we don't need you anymore. Goodbye.
He's pretty now, but you won't like him later.
Nope.
Like
this man won't age well. I'm gonna kill him now.
Anyway, Suri's the one that came up with like. This is a love story written by God, and then Bobby has to remind him like to stop trying so hard and just tell her what's going on and all this different stuff. But Suri still basically can't just sort of be both people yet. Like
yeah, and then Bobby they have a picture of God in the studio, and I really like that it's Indian God. It's not white God. I liked that. I'm just like, oh, good. It's not white.
I think I said that when we were
white
watching.
American blonde-haired Jesus.
Like,
good for you.
Probably closer to the real one anyway.
Probably, even though it'd be female, but Anyway, so sometimes Bobby gets drunk and talks to the picture of God. So Tani Raj comes back, and this is one of my favorite things. What? He's wearing this T-shirt. He comes back to the dance class, and he's wearing this T-shirt that says "Anyone, Anywhere, Anytime" in English. It makes me laugh.
I don't know if that's is that like a Wayne like fight type of
No, I think
statement, or
no,
is that like
I think
a...
it's like a sexual thing.
Speaking of that, they got this weird thing about people kissing or overtly affection.
Oh yeah, God forbid you kiss in a Bollywood movie.
But they have tons of stuff like what they're wearing and dances and things where they're like doing hip
much hip thrusting and all the dancing. Raj is nasty, but they
they're-
won't kiss ever.
Yeah, it's weird.
God
like,
forbid they kiss.
It's weird what they consider to be like risque. Like, I don't know.
No, 3 hours of a romantic movie and they never kiss. So he has. This is where we're getting to intermission. So, which is what's something I love about Bollywood movies. So Suri is really happy because he's back at the dance studio. Tani's warming up to him. She wants to dance with him again. And so he and Bobby get stinking blind drunk. And so then Suri sidles up to his... Well, he's still dressed as Raj. He's dressed as Raj, and he sidles up to the mannequin that has his Suri mustache and button-down shirt.
And his glasses and
I
his
think
shirt
it's his little
and
lunchbox.
everything. Yeah,
his little
everything.
lunchbox. And he's just drunkenly, basically, he's crying, and he's saying, like, oh, I want her to fall in love with the old me, but maybe I have to kill the old me to become the person Tani loves.
He's sort of talking shit to it, but
kind of talking
also,
shit to
like,
himself.
Like, where are you going with this guy? And I thought, like, this could be a really good scene for a fucking slasher movie.
Like, yeah, like Split, Bollywood style.
Yeah, except in this, he's just a really nice guy and a really nice but sort of obnoxious guy.
He's obnoxious, but he's sweet eventually. You know what he reminds me of? Okay, when I was growing up in the 80s, there was a Saturday morning cartoon of The Legend of Zelda. And Link would always say to the princess, "Ugh, kiss me," because he was kind of a surfer bro, and she'd be like, "Ugh, gross, no." And that was like the joke in every episode. Very hashtag like Me Too.
Well, excuse me, princess.
I don't think that would be appropriate now.
That?
Hell yeah, I watched that.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I watched. We had the breakfast cereal. Watched the Saturday morning cartoon. Watched the Mario Brothers Saturday morning cartoon.
I mean,
Shit
I
was
remember
dope.
Mario Brothers.
Dope.
God.
Anyway, so it was kind of like that, where he was just, and Raj didn't even like ask her to kiss him or anything like that, but he was just very, very cute and like he's the type where even if you're pissed at him, he's gonna get you to laugh, and you can't help it. In spite of yourself, you're gonna laugh at him and smile. So that's what I love about Raj. That's what I love about the way SRK plays him.
Being all likable and shit.
So then Raj and Tani partner, get selected for the finals in the dance competition. So they select 10 couples, and then they'll compete for a prize.
Is this after they have a ridiculous street race with Tiny and Dolly?
It might be around that point. So why don't you explain that part so I can drink the rest of my wine?
Let's... You bloody bitch.
Bloody bitch.
You bloody bitch. That's my explanation of the scene. So, I don't even know what started. So, Tani partner is practicing on her own, and she accidentally, like, knee checks this other girl that's also looking in the mirror.
It's completely an accident. She kind of, like, barely kicks her, barely, like, bumps into her.
She calls Tani partner a bitch, like, you're a bloody bitch, and then... But
all in English.
Everything else is in Hindi.
But they say bloody bitch
and
in
then
English.
They keep like, no, you're the bloody bitch. No, you're the bloody bitch. And then Raj gets in there. And he like separates them. And he's like, okay, let me talk to her. And then he turns around and Tiny is there. And Tiny's like, he's supposed to be this big buff dude, but he's really only like a couple inches taller than Raj.
He's Dolly's dance partner.
And he's like, oh, you want to talk? You talk to me. And then Raj apologizes for himself, for Tani, for the other girl, like in a circular fashion, and then he's like, okay, all right. They go back to practice, and then when they leave, I think Dolly hits Tani in the head with her bag on the way out while they're on a motorcycle. So Tani's like, fuck this, and they both get on the motorcycle. She drives, and they chase them. Like, very pedestrian speed.
Like 25 miles an hour.
And
बच गई मैं एक चपेट मारती सारी जिंदगी डांस करती रहती bloody bitch.
तानी पार्टनर एक बात कहूँ आपके मुंह से ये गाली अच्छी नहीं लगती
मैंने कौन सी गाली दी
मुझे आपने कहा ना जी वो B for bitch
CDF भी आती है बताऊँ
नहीं जी आजकल इतना ही काफी है मुझे मालूम नहीं था आपको
bloody डॉली
देखिए
पीछे आओ।
हो जी, हो गया जी। ये फट गया जी, की कर रहे हो? और ये किससे बांध रहे हो जी? और वो तो गए जी, कोई नहीं। क्या हुआ ये? ओ जी,
डॉली साली बहंगी टकी।
नहीं जी, वही गाली को गाली तो दी।
Later, when he takes the bike to the shop and Bobby's like, "How fast were you driving it?" and he's like, "Yeah, like 120 or something." Like, no, it was not.
It was not. They were on a crowded street with people.
tops like 30.
But Tani was like, "I'm gonna kick their ass," and she swings her bag at him, and Raj is just like, "Oh my god,
it's
what?"
a bunch of like, there's some slow-mo like
It's very funny.
Braking on the front wheel and shit like that.
Yeah,
but,
it's pretty funny.
Oh, they throw them in to die. Somehow.
Yes, they throw them into like dying fabric, so they throw them in, and Dolly's screaming, and Tiny's like, "Oh, damn it, damn it,
haha, bloody bitch,
you bloody bitch." So okay, now we start to see Tani warming up to Raj, and you're kind of wondering, is she falling for Raj? Because then they go to the dance club, and this is an interesting cultural thing we learned. It is the festival of Rakhi, which I looked it up a little bit. This is just Google telling me it's like a festival of brotherhood, and all the men are crying because the women are tying like flower corsages basically around the men's wrists, so they're basically getting friend zoned. So like Dolly is tying flowers around Tiny's wrist, and he's just like he's crying.
Raj runs and hides in the bathroom.
Yeah, and he calls Bobby. He's like, "What do we do? What do I do? I don't want to be your brother." So they run off, and they just go off, and what do they do something else that day.
First, so Tani comes
wait,
to
we missed the part with the Golgappa. The little food?
Yeah, well...
Yeah, we'll go back to that.
Yeah, so Tani goes to find Raj, and he's in the restroom, and he doesn't know what to do, and he's just like, diarrhea! And she's like, okay, well, no one's dancing, do you want, like... Let's just go and get some costumes. And he's like, okay, I'll be out in like 2 seconds.
Yeah, they go clothes shopping. But before that, I skipped over something. So they celebrate, they had made they were going to make a bet. And so this was after, I think, like they either beat out Dolly and Tiny, or it was when they found out they were going to be in the finals, but they were going to celebrate by eating something called Golgappa, which is some kind of street food. Like, I don't want to call it a pastry, but it's like a
water
dough
balls
with rose water and nuts and stuff.
Water balls. Like that's what the best translation is or whatever.
They have an eating contest, and the winner of the contest gets to basically ask the other person. They can do anything they want. Like if they say you have to have dinner with me, then you have to have dinner with them.
चलो जी की लोगे
गोलगप्पे सेम
किन्ने छोटे पाजी तुसी बस लेते आओ टुडे नो लिमिट
चंगा जी चंगा
वो चंगा की हुए नो लिमिट मत बोल
राज पार्टनर गोलगप्पा कंपटीशन
इसमें भी कंपटीशन
यस
और तो फिर एक बात दस जीतने वाले को प्राइस क्या मिलेगा हाँ
जीतने वाला हारने वाले से कोई भी एक काम करा सकता है
कोई भी
बिल्कुल और हारने वाला ना नहीं कह सकता
तो तानी पार्टनर आप हार गए आज राज सारे अमृतसर के गोलगप्पे खा जाएगा पर हारेगा नहीं
वील सी
सी लो जी कके ले आओ गोलगप्पे ले हार दे
So they just gorge on these things. I could probably eat like 4 and then I'd be done. And so they gorge on it, and Raj wins by 1 little piece of food. And so then he goes home as Suri, and Tani's there like the nice Indian wife in the sari.
And when did she have time to make him that giant? She makes him this giant pot of food.
Biryani, so a giant thing of rice. And, well, because she's a good Indian housewife. She's got the food ready to go.
She's real quick about it.
Suri walks in. She's like, oh, I've made this giant dish of food. And you almost think, oh, does she know? And she's playing him, but she doesn't know. And so he's just like, okay. And she kind of looks, she's like, oh, you don't like it? And it's like, no, it's delicious. So he just sticks his hand in, starts digging in and eating it. And he's like, I love this woman. And it's very cute. You both see them both laying in their separate beds with their tummies sticking out like, oh, what did I do? I'm so full. So then that's when the Rakhi thing happens and they go off shopping. And I know she's saying something. There's another part where he gets sad. I didn't write it down.
He starts to ask her while they're in the changing rooms about, like, he's interested in somebody that doesn't like him or something like that.
Tani partner? थोड़ा जो कंफ्यूजन चल रहा है.
क्यों? साइज ठीक नहीं है क्या?
नहीं जी, कपड़ों में नहीं. थोड़ा सा माइंड में ते हार्ट में कंफ्यूजन हो रहा है.
क्या कंफ्यूजन?
मुझे अरे पार्टनर एक बात बताओ कि एक लड़की आखिर चाहती क्या है?
बड़ा मुश्किल सवाल पूछ लिया आपने. एक लड़की क्या चाहती है, जवाब सिर्फ एक लड़की ही समझ सकती है.
लो जी, अब लड़की बनना पड़ेगा.
जवाब है तो बहुत सिंपल, पर जब तो कोई लड़का इसे समझता है, दोनों बूढ़े हो जाते हैं.
ओ नहीं तानी पार्टनर, मुझे तो आप प्लीज शॉर्टकट में समझा दो. वो क्या है जी? मुझे अकेले बुड्ढा नहीं होना है.
एक लड़की सिर्फ इतना ही चाहती है कि कोई उसे इतना प्यार करे जितना किसी ने किसी से ना किया हो. बस और कुछ नहीं चाहिए होता एक लड़की को जीने के लिए.
And then I think that's when he hears her talk about, like, her heart is dead or something.
Yeah, her heart is dead. She can never love again. And so he's thinking, as Suri, like, I still want her to fall in love with who, not Raj, but who I really am. So he still has the bet to go back on. And so he won. So he says, I want you to spend the entire day with me. And that's when we get another song and dance sequence. There was another one.
Aren't there 4?
Yeah, there's another one with where the girl sings, and I don't really like that one as much. So I kind of skipped that one. So this is another musical scene, and they go to these beautiful temples. They even go to a Catholic church. And the song is called, and forgive my Hindi, I'm pronouncing this, Tujhme Dikta Hai. Basically means, I see God in you. My pronunciation is terrible, but that's what he's singing it, and it kind of goes back and forth between Raj and Suri. Basically, like, you are my God to me, and I see God in you, and, you make me want to be a better person, and all this stuff. It's a very sweet, lovely sequence. And so then Raj takes her up to kind of a lookout point, and he calls one of his buddies at the power company, because remember, it's really Suri who works at the power company.
He ruins everybody's fucking weekend.
They cut off the entire power, and then the lights come back on, and it spells, I love you. In English, interestingly enough. They don't do it in Hindi. They do it, and maybe it's easier. The letters in English are easier. I don't know, but they spell out, I love you, and so she kind of has, she has a friend zone moment where she's like, look, I should have told you before, I'm married. Yeah, I don't really love my husband, but I'm married, so I can't run off with you.
Stays in Raj mode.
He still stays in character.
That's the best. One of the best parts of this. In an American movie, when that character would be doing something like this, as soon as they trip him up, they start saying or going back to their normal voice or something, whatever.
He never breaks character.
A normal person would immediately notice. But yeah, Raj never breaks character. He changes direction, but he always stays Raj. Like he'll back up a little bit. Like no, it's not like I love you like that. It's like
a friend.
I love you, and it's
Yeah.
okay that you don't love me. And
yeah, his thing is just like, that's what love is about. I can love you, and it's okay if you don't love me back. But really, his heart is broken, and so then he decides.
And she feels guilty for not being able to love him back.
Yeah, and so then Suri, deep down, who he really is, has this moment of thinking, like, I could run off with her. Like, he could just change into Raj, run off with her, start a new life. But then he thought, no, I want her to fall in love with me as Suri for who I really am. And then there's a moment with Bobby, and Bobby looks at the painting of God and says, God, why are you putting spice on his sugar sweet love story? At least that's what the English subtitles said.
Oh.
So he kind of decides, like, maybe I won't be Raj anymore. I just can't do it anymore. It's too heartbreaking. So Suri and Tani go to this trade fair, like electric companies, and they have booths and vendors and stuff like that. And so there's a scene. There's a company that I guess that's based out of Japan, and they have a sumo wrestler, and they say, if you can stay in the ring with the sumo wrestler for 10 minutes,
10 fucking minutes,
you get free tickets for 2 to Japan.
Which, by the way, it wasn't a full 10 minutes, but it was a very long scene.
It was a long scene. So
they made you feel like it was a full 10 minutes.
It felt like it was 10 minutes. And so Suri goes in.
Because he's basically trying to, like, I guess break his mold and be a little bit more like, what would Raj do?
Yeah, what would
Raj
Raj
would probably
do?
get in there and...
So Suri is able to last. He doesn't really... He just kind of fumbles his way through. And also
he doesn't last the whole time. He actually wins by...
He wins. He knocks the guy out of the ring.
Yeah.
And so we also discovered this sumo wrestler has a Harley Quinn tattoo.
Yeah, that was weird. And, like, specifically the 90s animated Harley Quinn.
Yeah, he had a tattoo on each shoulder, and I couldn't tell what the other one was, but when he turned, it was right toward the camera, and we paused, and I'm like, is that a Harley Quinn tattoo on this sumo wrestler in a Bollywood movie?
It's funny, because you expect if a sumo wrestler is going to have a tattoo, especially since it's so taboo in Japan, that it would be, like, badass... Japanese style, like dragons and
Big
shit, but
dragon
no.
and koi fish and
It's just
stuff.
Harley
Nope,
Quinn.
it's Harley Quinn.
It's Harley Quinn riding a dragon.
I'm gonna guess this actor really had the Harley Quinn tattoo,
Probably.
and they just left it. So Tani is pissed. So he won. He won the tickets to Japan, and she's cleaning him up and kind of patching up his. He's got some cuts and bruises.
She's like,
and she's pissed at him.
berating him, like. Which
she said that he embarrassed her, and
I don't know
it was
about
stupid to do that.
Embarrassing, exactly, but like, she's like, you're a normal dude that does a normal boring job and a normal this and a normal that. So what are you trying to prove? And her real underlying issue is that he keeps trying for her and she can't try for him, so she feels bad.
She's angry, but she's really angry at herself too, because he cares for her, he takes care of her.
Later she apologizes for the berating him, but
yeah, and I have a line, and I wish I wrote who said it. Don't you feel pain in love? And I think this is kind of the thing.
She asked him that.
She asked him that, and I think he still hasn't told her, Suri, that he loves her. And so they're both hurting in different ways. And so Suri offers to take her to pray before the dance competition. So he and she has a moment where she kind of has
I think we skipped one thing.
What?
Because the reason she was thinking about what's about to happen is because of the conversation she had with Raj.
She thought about running off with him.
She left Suri at a movie.
Yeah.
And he had to run all the way down to his buddy's shop, get changed, and then go to his other friend's body shop where he pretends to be the owner. And that's where he talks to her and he tells her, like, I see God in you.
Yeah.
And that's when she's asking about pain and love. And I think she feels like maybe she might even feel guilty that her original love wasn't real love.
The guy who died?
Yeah.
Oh.
Because she can't understand how love has no pain for him.
For Raj.
Yeah.
Yeah, how can he love her and it's unrequited, but he doesn't feel pain? And he's like, oh no, I'm fine. And really not.
इतना खुश कैसे हो सकते हो? आप बिना प्यार चाहे हमसे प्यार कैसे कर सकते हो? क्यों आपको
दर्द जी, वो प्यार तो रब दी मेहरबानी है जी, तो प्यार में कैसा दर्द? और रही बात प्यार चाहने की, तो प्यार सिर्फ प्यार के बदले थोड़ा ना किया जाता है। अब देखो, मुझे आप में रब दिखा तो मुझे आपसे प्यार हो गया, आपको किसी और में रब दिखा आपको उससे प्यार हो गया। इट्स वेरी सिंपल जी। और हाँ, जैसी लेडीज को ये सब नहीं सोचना चाहिए। आप तो प्योर जी, गर्मा गर्म चाह लो जी।
मेरी लाइफ इतनी सिंपल नहीं है राज। मुझे किसी में रब नहीं दिखता। नहीं दिखता मुझे किसी में रब।
So, I could see, like, I mean, I like all that. I'm just saying, like, I think it might also be her wondering if she loved her dead fiance as much as this guy loves her.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
It's adding another layer.
Which
So,
would be, yeah.
So painful moments for Tani and Raj. And so then Suri takes her to the temple to pray. And they're having a moment, and she's just like, let me see. She's praying, and she's just like, let me see God. You know, let me be at peace, really, is what she was saying. And she kind of sees Suri for who he really is. And she doesn't fall in love with him in that moment, but she realizes, like, this guy would do anything for me.
She sees God in him.
She sees
like,
God in him. She sees maybe not love in, like, a romantic way, but love is in just caring for another person. It's really a sweet moment. It's really a beautiful moment in the film. So, but she's still torn because she's like, well, I see this, but I don't know if I feel the same way.
पर मुझे में रब दिखता है। हाँ राज, मुझे में रब दिखता है। इंसान को तो मैं छोड़ भी दूँ, रब को कैसे छोड़ा जाता है? मैं जहाँ भी भाग कर जाऊंगी, वहाँ रब होंगे, और जहाँ रब होंगे, वो होंगे।
So then she goes to the dance contest, and they're the last couple because, of course, like any dance movie, Western or Bollywood, they're going to be the last couple.
It would be funny if they were the first ones and then they had to go through all the
They
other
had to
people.
just sit there and like, so what are you going to do this weekend? And just wait. So it kind of reminds me of Step Up, which we just covered in our last podcast, where Channing Tatum goes away and then he comes back at the last minute. So that's what kind of happens here, is that the guy calls Tani's name and she shows up, and then he calls Raj, and, you know, crickets, there's no one. And then Suri shows up and she's like, oh shit. And so he just kind of walks out, and they have this look on their face the whole time, like, what the fuck is going on? And they keep that look on their face the whole time while they're dancing. But then she's kind of standing there looking at him, like, and she's kind of, you know, come to the realization, like, I may not love him, but I'm going to be a good wife and I'm going to stay with him. And then he goes into this dance. He, like, kneels and bows, and he's ready to dance. And she's like, oh, he knows the moves. So they start doing their dance, and he's dressed with his little mustache and his little button-down shirt. I wish he had his little lunch thermos with him the whole time, because that would be really cute, but he doesn't. But she's having, it's like her Kill Bill moment, where she's realizing as they're dancing.
That would be a total mood breaker. Like, it's supposed to be really sweet, and then it just scared the shit out of her.
Yeah, like he's a serial killer. No, so she starts, they show scenes throughout the movie where she starts to kind of put things together and realize, oh, he's Raj. He did all of this in some weird, twisted way for me because he loves me.
Hello, Tani partner. Raj, नाम तो सुना ही होगा।
कुछ नहीं दी, ऐसे गर्दन में चुप पड़ गया जी।
अब मैं रोज रात को लेट में आऊंगा जी। इस महीने मैंने ऑफिस में ओवरटाइम ड्यूटी कर ली।
आपका दिल चाहता है कि उसका दर्द कम हो जाए।
गाड़ी खराब हो गई तो थोड़ा सा गीला हो गया।
And so then they win. And one of them says, I wish I wrote down who this was. I love you more than... Oh, Suri says it. He says, I love you more than God. I hope God's not mad at me for loving you more than I love him. And so she kind of she has this moment. She's like, it's been you all along. I love you. And so that they win the contest. And then they go on a honeymoon, basically, to Japan. And it's very cute. And I have a quote from you. You said, it's just adorable.
It is adorable.
It is. It's very cute.
The most adorable part of the movie.
So what did you talk about? I've been talking enough.
I don't know why, but usually I wouldn't care about a scene like this where they add something at the end and it's just pictures and someone... Like, it's not... I can't think of another movie, but I've definitely seen things like this. But they're just postcards, and he's explaining it, and he's like, oh, I'm kind of shy, and she was like really holding me tight, and you can hear how...
It's very cute. And then
you can hear how happy he is.
Yeah, and then she puts on the fake mustache, and he's like, now I know what it's like to kiss somebody with a mustache. And they hug. You never see them kiss. They hug.
She kisses him on the cheek. And he brings it up, and he
Their
talks
first
about
public kiss.
How she's more affectionate than he is. But yeah, it was just adorable.
It's very cute. It's very sweet. So that was AJ's first Bollywood movie. So overall, it was a dance movie. That's our theme for April.
Yeah.
And it was a Bollywood movie. So
it was really good. It was better than Step Up. It's just a good... And this is somebody who... I hate romantic movies. But I love this movie. And
I love this movie.
So quick for a movie this long.
Yeah, it only took us 2 days. Two sittings to finish it.
For a movie that's 3 hours long, the way we normally watch stuff, and we had to read the whole thing, it's amazing that 2 days. That's it.
I think sometimes if you're watching something with subtitles, you don't want to stop it because it's just even more exhausting.
It's breaking up the thought process.
Yeah, so, yeah.
But... Okay, yeah, it's 3 hours long, but there is an intermission if you just want to...
If you want it.
But I can't think of anything I didn't like about this. It broke a bunch of the cliches and stuff. It doesn't... No one does anything where you're just like, just do this! Except Suri won't just come out earlier on in the movie about what he's been doing.
No, I mean, he's almost stubborn about it. Like, he wants her to fall in love with him, the boring guy who works at the electric company,
there's
not
that,
Raj.
But then there's also him, like, worried that she's not going to love either one of them either way. But then if he comes out about it, then he can't keep being Raj and watching her be happy.
Yeah.
So, it makes sense. It's just... It's the only thing where you can, like, sort of get mad at him about it a little bit, but you get it the whole time.
But then the movie wouldn't happen. So I think I should actually own a copy of this. Maybe I need to get one again, because I could watch this again. I feel like I need to watch more Shah Rukh Khan movies, definitely.
I enjoyed seeing what it was like for them to have, like, Bollywood-style musical numbers and stuff, because it's very different.
Mm-hmm.
And this makes me want to watch other... like movies from other styles and other countries more, because we've seen we've seen Bollywood, only the one she watched more.
I've seen more.
But still, we've seen a couple of Thai movies with Tony Jaa,
Shudder.
Oh, and Shudder.
Yes.
Korean horror movies, we've seen them, so we sort of get a feel of all these different styles. And now I want to see a few more.
So I've got some recommendations for 2 Bollywood movies. Now, there's one I've heard of that I haven't seen, but it's a big one called Om Shanti Om with Shah Rukh Khan. So that's one we probably need to watch. And there's 2 other ones that I've seen. They're not really related to the theme, but they're just ones that I like. There's one called Queen, and I think it's on... I've seen all of these on Netflix. And it's a little more Western. So it's about a girl who doesn't want to, have a tradition. She doesn't want to get married. She wants to go off and have fun. So she goes to Europe and she stays in these hostels and stuff, and she meets different people. So a lot of it's in English. And I don't know if it has any big song and dance numbers. So it feels a little more Western for a Bollywood movie, which is actually kind of a a downside to it. I like more of the just, you jump into the culture, but that's one that I watched and I just liked it. And then there's another one that I really liked called Gajini, and it is the Indian version of Memento, and it is better than Memento. It's a thriller. It's a guy who has, instead of the Polaroids, he has tattoos all over his body, so he has his shirt off a lot, and I'm not complaining about that because this guy has a lot of big muscles. And so he and his girlfriend were attacked by this gangster, and his name is Gajini. And I remember the girlfriend's name is Kalpana, but I don't remember what the main guy's name is. And he had brutally murdered Kalpana, and he gave this guy a head injury. So it's kind of like Memento, where she was murdered, but he doesn't know really who it was or why, and he just has tattoos that says they murdered Kalpana, and so it's this long journey to find Gajini, and Gajini is a badass villain. He is scary. He's a scary dude. There is one like song and dance number that doesn't quite make sense. There's this medical student who's trying to she works on people with memory issues, so she's trying to help the main guy out. But it's very, very good. Has good music in it. So Queen and Gajini are my recommendations.
Okay. Trying to think. If you want a movie from another culture that's very like its own thing and outside the norm, Old Boy.
Oh, Korean Old Boy.
Yeah, Korean Old Boy. The American one is good. It actually, like the very, very end, I won't say what happens in either one, but the very, very end is actually a little better than the English. The
Korean one is kind of like, you're just like, what?
But the Korean movie overall is
it's
definitely
way better. It's way better.
So Old Boy, Korean one, if you can get it. And, okay, this is a kind of a weird one, but a not so traditional love story, Lost in Translation.
Oh, but that's an American movie.
Yeah, I just wanted something that wasn't such a it's just not a traditional love story.
It is set in Japan.
Yes.
Yeah, and this is Rob Nabanagi Di Jodi is kind of a traditional love story, and it's not.
Oh,
so there are tropes, but then there are not tropes. They break some tropes.
I'm gonna caveat Lost in Translation with, if you're a dude, watch it, because I'm sure a bunch of women have seen it and they probably like it or enjoy it, whatever. I'm pretty sure I could see a bunch of dudes not bothering with it.
It starts out with Scarlett Johansson's ass, so I don't know why you dudes wouldn't want to watch it.
True, but if you're a dude, watch it. It's funny. It's it
sad.
It gets you. I'll
does.
just say that. So those are my two very random picks. So yeah.
Okay, so maybe I think we'll continue the dance movie theme for April, and maybe we'll do some more Bollywood movies too. So how to find us? We're on Twitch, Discord, YouTube, Anchor, Spotify, iTunes, and we're also on Instagram. You can see AJ and his blue hair and me just being me. I'm also on Instagram at Melanie Gibson Author. So join our cult and be my victim. And never fear, Raj is here. Tani partner.
Never fear, Raj is here.
Tani partner.
Tani partner.
Tani partner.
Tani partner.